What if the most powerful weapon in the Middle East was never a missile, never a nuclear bomb, and never an army? What if it was simply a threat repeated so many times, for so many decades, that the entire global energy system was built around it? And what if that threat is slowly losing its power, not because of war, not because of diplomacy, but because of a pipeline buried beneath the Arabian Peninsula? If that's true, then one of the biggest assumptions in modern geopolitics may be changing right in front of us, and most people haven't noticed. For more than 40 years, Iran possessed something extraordinarily valuable: geography. The country sits next to one of the world's most important waterways, the Strait of Hormuz. Nearly 1/5 of the world's seaborne oil trade passes through this narrow corridor. That gave Tehran leverage. A simple message: if pressure becomes unbearable, we can disrupt the flow of energy. And because the consequences could be enormous, the world listened. Markets listened. Governments listened. Military planners listened. The possibility alone was enough to shape oil prices, naval deployments, and diplomatic calculations. Iran invested heavily to make that threat credible. Fast attack craft, coastal missile systems, naval mines, submarines, everything designed around one strategic reality: control the choke point, and you gain influence far beyond your borders. For decades. Until something started changing. The shift didn't begin with an airstrike. It didn't begin with sanctions. It began with infrastructure. The United Arab Emirates spent years building something that received little international attention: a pipeline running from Abu Dhabi to the port of Fujairah on the Gulf of Oman. Its significance is easy to miss, because this route bypasses the Strait of Hormuz entirely. Oil can move directly to global markets without entering the narrow waterway. That gave Iran so much leverage. This wasn't a battlefield victory. It was strategic engineering. Years of planning, years of investment, years of preparing for a future in which dependence on a single choke point would become unacceptable. And today, that future may already be arriving. This is where the story becomes even more interesting. Modern geopolitical competition isn't always decided by missiles. Sometimes it is decided by logistics, by ports, pipelines, supply chains, and production capacity. Because once alternative routes appear, the value of controlling a choke point changes, not overnight, but gradually. Every barrel of oil that moves outside Hormuz slightly reduces the leverage that the threat of closure once carried. That doesn't mean the strait has become irrelevant. Far from it. It remains one of the most important energy corridors on Earth. But the strategic equation is evolving, and every new bypass project changes the calculations a little more. For Iran, the implications could be profound. Its regional influence has long depended on more than military capability. Economic strength matters. Energy revenues matter. The ability to shape market expectations matters. If global buyers become less vulnerable to disruptions in Hormuz, then one of Tehran's most effective strategic tools becomes less powerful than before. That doesn't mean Iran suddenly loses influence. It means the environment around it is changing. And in geopolitics, changing environments can alter everything. Because power isn't only about what weapons you possess. It's also about whether other countries still believe those weapons can change their behavior. And that's why this story matters. A pipeline doesn't look like a weapon. It doesn't launch missiles. It doesn't appear on military parades. But sometimes, in the world of geopolitics, a piece of infrastructure can quietly reshape the balance of power more effectively than an aircraft carrier. For 40 years, the Strait of Hormuz represented one of the world's greatest strategic pressure points. The question now is not whether it still matters. It absolutely does. The real question is this: as alternative routes continue to emerge, how much leverage will that threat still carry 10 years from now? Because the next chapter of Middle Eastern geopolitics may not be written by generals. It may be written by engineers,